Welcome to another episode of Ballin VA. Larry.
Yes.
I know we had my man Boo Williams on. I know we had Dwight Vick on, but this guest right here is like, this is special, bro. This is special.
Legendary.
This is legendary status right here, man. Now, before I talk about, how special this guest is, I want to just tell everybody, I've had debates about this guest. Like, it's literally talking
full-fledged arguments, yo.
Yes, arguments, like taking off my shirt fighting arguments, bro. But look, we got a special guest. We got the 1994 Gatorade Girls Player of the Year in the state of Virginia. Let me repeat that. The 1994 Gatorade State Player of the Year in Virginia, right here.
Basketball royalty.
Basketball royalty. She went to Monacan High in Richmond now. She's doing great things after her playing career. We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to introduce Tiffany Bower, but it's Tiffany Kerley now. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Ruby. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be back.
So look, we're gonna go way back to before the accolades, before the recruiting process, before your coaching career. We want to talk about the first time you decided basketball is going to be part of my life. When was that for you? When did you think to yourself, basketball is fun, I want to start playing it?
The truth of the matter is we grew up in a cute little neighborhood down in Chesterfield, and I used to play with the guys. Whatever the guys were playing, Tiffany was a part of, whether it was dodgeball, kickball, hide and seek, whatever they were doing, that's what I was doing. And just growing up, we played basketball. I actually didn't want to try out for basketball, to be honest with you. It was middle school. I think I was in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And I actually was over at Stonewall Jackson. And the physical ed teacher got me out of my class and told me I need to come try out for the team. And I'm sitting here thinking, how did you even know I played basketball? And, I'm 6th grade. I'm happy to get out of class either way. But he came out and he told me that some guys told me I needed to come in and try out. And I said, yeah, but I don't really want to play. I just kind of like playing around the neighborhood. And they were like, no, you need to come try out. And I came in and tried out as a middle school, 6th grade. And that's how I started playing organized. I really didn't play organized before that. It was 6th grade. And from that point on, I just started to fall in love with it more and more. Mm. But for me, it was just a way to stay out, do something fun, get out of the house and play with the guys. I was the biggest tomboy growing up. So whatever they were doing, that's what I was doing.
Hanover County. So you resided in Hanover before you moved to Chesterfield.
Yes. I was out there, Stonewall Jackson in middle school. I think I went 7th and 8th grade through there and then started at Lee Davis my 9th grade year. My mom was a single mom, so she moved around quite a bit. So 9th grade was Lee Davis. And then 10th grade was Clover Hill. And then I finished up my basketball career 11th and 12th grade at Monacan.
Go ahead, Woo.
So we talked about off camera about your success, but you said you did 9th grade at Lee Davis, 10th grade Clover Hill. So let's fast forward to Monacan. You get to Monacan and, you go to a new team. You go to a team you're not familiar with. Just talk about just going to Monacan and getting there and knowing they didn't have much success in basketball and girls basketball at that. So when you get there, what are your first initial thoughts about the team, the coach, the school? What were your initial thoughts when you first got to Monacan?
Oh my goodness. I'm 44 now, so my memory's not the best. I'm 40. It's like when I hit 40, it just hit the wall and slid down along with my metabolism. Right. But I'm trying to think back. I remember getting to Monacan and being happy about it because it was kind of a fresh start for me. I remember meeting people, you being one of them. Like, everybody was friendly. Everyone was like open arm, like, come on in. And I think a few of the people knew who I was. But the cool thing about coming into Monacan is there was really no expectations.
Okay.
Monacan at that point really didn't have a program. They really weren't looking to go to states. They didn't have this track record of getting kids from all over, bringing them to Monacan and let's do something with it. It was just the school that I happened to move into the district of because my mom's business was off Providence Road. So I just happened to be a Monacan. So when I got into Monacan, it was just a fresh start. There was a lot of kids on the team that played other sports. I remember Tinsley Jones. She was a big time soccer player, really only played basketball during basketball season. 6'2", had Aaron there. She really did the same thing. They pretty much recruited her because she was 6'2". So it was really a bunch of girls getting together that were kind of learning to play at the same time. So I liked the non-expectation. The coach was very sweet. Rosalie Wallace, she was great. She was the track coach there, so she made us run quite a bit. And I just remember coming in there and just thinking, fresh start, let's have some fun. I really didn't have any expectations. I was in the 11th grade. I had had a great 10th grade year at Clover Hill. But at that point, I was still just having fun. It wasn't until after my 11th grade year when all those recruiting boxes started coming. Actually, it was 10th grade they started, but they really started coming in 11th grade. And that's when I started thinking, okay, Tiffany, what are we doing with this thing? Let's move forward. Where are we going? What are we going to do next? What school do you want to go to? Why do you want to go to that school? How are you going to get seen? You know, but prior to getting to 11th grade, I really wasn't there yet. I was really just still having fun, just playing ball. I think once people started seeing me in 10th grade and starting to send boxes, or not boxes, but letters that I put in boxes, I started to realize maybe this thing could take me further. But I have to be honest, I wasn't thinking that way yet. Not until my 11th grade year.
When you started to play basketball your 11th grade year at Monacan, how was the first game playing against Clover Hill? Meaning that, because them being well, I can't say they were rivals. They was in the same district.
And then you coming from there.
And you coming from Clover Hill. Did you play basketball at Clover Hill, right?
I did play basketball at Clover Hill. I'm a competitor.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a competitor. Like, I'm that kid that's going to play you 25 times. You may beat me by 10 the first time, 5 the next time, 3 the next time, 2 the next time, and eventually I'm going to beat you. And I'm going to keep playing until I beat you. We ain't going home until I beat you. So that's how I was growing up. So, competitor. I mean, it was Clover Hill. Mom moved out of the school district, moved to another school district. And there was some rumor that other things were going on. I was just following where my mom went. So mom moved.
That happened.
We played against Clover Hill. I remember my sister was still going, actually. My sister ended up finishing. Yeah, she stayed at Clover Hill. She was a cheerleader there, matter of fact, now that I think about it.
Wow.
And so literally, she was. You remember, she was a cheerleader at Clover Hill and did the dancing at halftime. So for me, I wanted to beat them. You know that. I mean, there was no ill will, but I was like, whatever team I was playing on, we was going to win. I didn't care who it was, whether it was my last team or the team that to beat at that point was Midlothian. I'm going in to win.
Right.
And that's the mentality I had. But it wasn't I'm going to beat them more because it was Clover Hill. It was just, oh, hey, y'all got some buddies over here. I remember seeing y'all. Hey, how you doing? Of course, there was a little bit of redemption when we did beat them. Of course, everybody likes to feel that, but I played the same way regardless of who we were playing.
So, like, going to Monacan, and I say this in a nice way, did you feel like them not being a powerhouse, did you almost feel like that could hurt you because, you know, you didn't have – you had players that played other sports. They weren't really, Division I talent, and you were, the player of the year later on. But did you feel like it almost hurt you to a certain extent that I'm going to a school that's not really known for basketball, girls basketball at that? Is that going to hurt my recruitment? Because I do want to play college ball later on down the line.
I think looking back, I definitely feel like that did hinder as far as exposure. Again, there was no internet. There was no way for anybody to see me online, see what I was doing. If you didn't go to a Nike camp or to a particular camp where you knew coaches were going to be, you didn't get seen. And I remember playing AAU ball. That was one way I thought I might be able to, get different talent, play with people that were better. than me, because I always wanted to play with people better than me so I could get better. And I remember playing AAU ball. We played Richmond Metro, which played Boo Williams and everybody down in Hampton. So I remember getting excited to play those games because there were people better than me, stronger than me, quicker than me, faster than me. And I wanted to be against that talent more so. But when you ask particularly about Monacan, I have to be honest, back then, it was a lot of developmental stuff. I mean, the team had to develop like basic chest passes, bounce passes, learning how to deny, how to get in the passing lane, how to, all those things weren't things that they were really doing on a daily basis. So every day was more of a, let's learn the fundamentals, and hopefully we can build on those fundamentals and get to where we can compete. Because technically at that point, as an 11th grader, it was get the ball to Tiffany, spread out, and go to the lane.
And get out of the way.
And go to work.
Just get it to Tiffany.
Yeah.
And go to work. And they double team me or something like that, I would try to pass it and hopefully there'd be a catch and a layup. But it was tough back then because we really didn't have anybody. I don't want to say we didn't have anybody. There weren't girls that were really focused on getting to the next level.
Right.
We had girls that were just to stay in shape for their sport.
Right.
Things like that.
So
look at, sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Whoop.
No, I was just saying, you have that junior year where you're getting acclimated to the team, the coach, the system, the school, and then you move fast forward to your senior year. I mean, and the expectations are, like you said, when you got there, there weren't any expectations. Now your senior year, you're a competitor, like you said. So you're like, I'm here, so I might as well ball. So you get to your senior year, you start balling, and just talk about your senior year, going into your senior year where and you signed a UVA going into your senior year or summer your senior year, right?
Yeah. So as we talk about it, I'm putting dots together. Prior to my senior year, I had already signed with Virginia.
Okay.
So my senior year, I was more so just trying to keep that level and get higher. So I'm thinking going into my junior year at Monacan, I believe I went to Kathy Rush camp up in Swarthmore College, which is in, I want to say up in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, somewhere up in that area.
Right.
And that was the only camp I ever went to. The only camp. I never went out Midwest or anywhere down south in Tennessee or anything. So basically I was recruited by all those schools up in that area, like the Big East, coming down into like Georgetown, American, coming all down through that East Coast. And they pretty much stopped in Carolina. It was pretty much just that area, just the coaches that the colleges.
You were regional at that point.
At that point, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I was regional at that point, and that's when Virginia, I think, had to come in because maybe someone had told them about me, because I don't remember Coach Campbell or Debbie being at that camp. I think they heard about me through one of these other coaches, said, you need to go down and see this girl down in Richmond. Because at that point, they weren't really recruiting out of Richmond at all. Now, of course, they've gotten a lot of girls coming out of Richmond the last 20 years, but Virginia wasn't recruiting in the state of Virginia. They had recruited one girl named Charlita Bill. She came out of Garfield High School in 90.
I remember her. Yep.
And that was the only girl that came out of Virginia. They were going to Pennsylvania, Jersey, California, Philly for Dawn. So it was an honor for even come in the conversation when they did come in. So to answer your question, coming into my junior year, I had started to get recruited by a lot of folks, and I think Debbie, and I'm not being disrespectful, Debbie never liked us calling her Coach Ryan. She wanted to call us Debbie. So just so you know,
sure.
Debbie hadn't seen me in person until, I want to say, because it had to be my junior year. That's when she came in. She saw me in my junior year. And that's when those schools started to come in. So by the time junior year came in, I had kind of came down to 5 schools, and I had decided to go Virginia, early signing period, junior year. So then senior year, there were expectations. Absolutely. I had made a couple of accolades in the state. I think it was second team on Metro junior year, a couple things. Junior year, didn't get to first team for one coach. It might've been Cloverville. that didn't vote.
I'm sure
it might
I'm
have
sure
been.
Coach Llewellyn was like, "Nah, we ain't gonna put her up there."
Yeah, I'm not calling no names out, but I think it was one didn't do it. So I didn't make first team here. For college, big schools and all that stuff came in. But then when Virginia came in, even though ODU was in the mix too, Dawn went there, and it was Virginia. Everybody else was out. I didn't even think past that, honestly.
Wow.
So yeah.
That is interesting, considering back then you came out in '94, and you played in the Dominion District. Now I know Midlothian was always kind of the top dog, but you also had George Wythe and Huguenot that was competitive as well. Now, by the time you started to shine, I'm not sure who was left at George Wythe. I know they had Keisha Finch and Lisa McLeod, Alyssa Hinton that came out of there. But when you were at your height, who was the team? Well, who was the competitor that was whether it was Bird, whether it was Midlothian? Who was that team that kind of just drove you? Like, okay, you know, we got to bring it when we can. I know you said that you bring it every game. For me, so who was that person?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So to name two people coming out that I looked up to when I first came into high school was two. It was Mandy Saunders coming in Meadowbrook, and you had Denise Wynn came out of
Armstrong.
Yep.
So she was that other point guard that could see the whole floor, tall point guard, had her game on. So those two I kind of looked up to with their games. Now, as far as when I laced up and when I went on the court, who was I trying to beat? Midlothian. 100% Midlothian. They had a team. They had a first team and a second team, like Duke did in the early 90s. They had a team A that came in and then a team B that came in. And you knew what was about to happen, and they all just kind of refueled. Now, individual players, you had Chevette Waller coming out of Bird. And Chevette was super quick. She played like all the positions, but for the most part, she was a small forward. She came out of Bird. Who else was there?
Gina Thompson.
I'm sorry.
I think Gina played with Chevette, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I told you 44. I remember Chevette was huge.
Chevette was always all Metro, first team all Metro, second team all state kind of thing. Yeah, she was always a decent opponent for Monacan. You guys always gave you guys problems.
She did. Now, when we go out, like, you know, outside of your district, I'm trying to think. There was now Atkins was good too. Chantel Atkins, she was playing at Henrico. Older sisters were playing. One of them went to Temple.
Yep.
And the other one went to Georgetown, Tracy Atkins and all them. They all came out of Henrico area. So going out regionally, you had for me, my biggest, I wanted to beat Midlothian. That was, it was like every time somebody tried to play Tom Brady in the AFC East, you were going to beat the Patriots.
You're going to beat the Patriots.
That's Midlothian for me. We wanted to beat Midlothian because they were so well coached. They were well conditioned. All those kids played all year long, and they were a well-oiled machine. So for me, it was Midlothian.
Okay,
for sure.
So okay, Tiff. So you go through your senior year. I think you guys went 23. I can't remember. I know you lost 3 games that senior year. You get to the regional championship game, through a triple overtime game against the team we just talked about, Midlothian. Packed house, because they waiting for the women. I think you told me before, they're waiting for the boys game, and everybody's hanging around, and you balling out against Midlothian. And,
waiting for the boys to start.
Yeah, so just talk about that game, you know, putting Monacan on the map, never winning a regional, never even being in a regional title game, and you getting there, Tiff, and just balling out and bringing Monacan that first ever regional title.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Midlothian had come out district champs, I think the year before, and they were looking to be the district champ again. They hadn't lost much. They had beat us twice that year. 2 of those losses were Midlothian. The third was to Salem, Virginia Beach, and that's how we got out of states.
Right.
But both those losses were to Midlothian. And So we're beating everybody. We're having a great year, but Midlothian was our Achilles heel. And what Midlothian would always do was they pick us up 3/4 court press. And they had a press that would start as soon as I got the ball in, and their goal was to get the ball out of Tiffany's hands and hopefully have somebody else make the mistake. So the first 2 games, we had a couple of ball handlers, but they didn't feel as comfortable. So they would dribble it a few times to try to get it back to me. So that press worked really well the first 2 times. I think we lost by about 10 one game and 20 the next. Ooh. So we're gearing up. Jeez. We know we got to play Midlothian again to get into the next round. And I don't remember who called the practice. My mom will tell you she called it to this day. I'm just saying. She'll say they called this practice, but we had an impromptu practice prior to playing Midlothian, and we were going to get the press figured out. And we were going to figure out how to get the ball to the middle, get the ball moving up quickly and pull it out and start running your offense. And we literally practiced for about 3 hours because there wasn't a scout team. We barely had 10 people on our team. So it was tough to have 5 against 5.
Right.
A lot of times we bring in a manager, or we had an assistant coach there, Miss Rachel Mead, who's doing an amazing job now with Cosby, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
She was the assistant coach. Well, she was actually JV coach at the time. And she'd come up and help every once in a while. But it was really Coach Wallace's team, and Mead let her do her thing. But she ran an amazing JV squad. But anyway.
Didn't know that.
So she might jump in.
Yeah, she was there first.
Yeah, she was there. She was a JV squad leader. What was I saying? But I never got to play for her because I never played with her on the JV, so I didn't get a chance to really get to experience her. I wish I had. Anyway, she might come in a little bit every once in a while to help with a 5th man, but literally we had to figure out this press. So I can remember spending about 2 hours one day, the day before playing Midlothian, we were figuring out that press. So we're in the Central Region Championship against our nemesis. They had beaten us twice. I'm sure they're thinking again. And we just willed ourselves to a win. It was tough. I don't know what to say, but they were up for most of the quarters. Like literally they were up all 4 quarters. I don't think we ever held a lead on them that entire game.
Well,
I did not come out that game.
You played every minute, every second.
Every minute. I never had a time.
46 points, 3 overtimes. You had the game-winning steal, Tiff. So, I know it's hard to think back then, but, just that game, you're locked in. You know you're going to Virginia. You want to bring it home. It's personal for you because of Midlothian. So
it is personal for me.
What is it like being in that moment? Like, just knowing that everything's on the line, the ball's going over half court. And I remember reading a quote that you just timed the crossover and you just stripped it and went to the goal and got the layup.
Okay, so we went into triple overtime with this team. And I remember they went up in the second overtime by 3. And we were down by 3 with about 6-7 seconds left. And they inbounded the ball to me. And we kind of were coming up fast, like we were going to do a break. And then I just stopped at the 3-point line, hit that 3, and we went and sunk it with a second left. And that's what took us into the second overtime, or the third overtime.
Wow.
So the third overtime, they were up by 2 or 1. And I had been in that whole game. I remember I was dying. And who was it that was bringing it? It was either Ann Cox. Katie Tracy might have been a freshman.
She had
transferred to James River after that. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, she may have been a freshman at the time, but it was someone who doesn't always bring the ball up. No. I know exactly who it was now. It wasn't Katie Tracy. It wasn't Ann Cox. It was someone else. It was a senior. I cannot think of her name. But she had been running the ball, and she'd been running their plays. And I was down in my 3-point. I was down in my defensive stance, and I remember timing her ball. I was like, she's going to bounce. And he did it many times. And I literally just reached around her side and ran down and got that 3. I just remember I wanted to scream and go, oh my God, we got it. But I tried to run back down on defense and get back because it was still a couple of seconds left in the game.
Right.
I remember, excuse me, goosebumps now, because I remember as we went from overtime to overtime, more and more people were in that gym. It was a packed Arthur Ashe Center.
Yeah.
They weren't there to see us. They were there to see the boys.
Right.
And I just remember they were rooting for us because it was obviously we were the underdog. I mean, they had 2 or 3 people that were going to D2, if not D1 schools. And literally our school had a lot of soccer players and people that did other things. And it was like, you could just see the crowd kind of getting behind us. And I remember feeling that energy and thinking, you can do this, you can do this. And just remember everything that Lonnie Lewis, he was a guy that taught me some things. And if he was like a mentor to me, got me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, started teaching me how to read people's feet and know which way to go according to how their feet are up. Just things he had taught me. And I remember being in that game, just remembering, all right, look at their feet. Which way are they going? If they can guard you this way, go this way. If they can guard you this way, go that way. And just praying. It was like, you got this. And I kept like rooting my teammates on. I said, it comes to you, you're making it. It comes to you, you're making it. It comes to you. You don't even think about nothing else, but you're going to make it, period. And we just came together and we were willing ourselves to do it. And somehow God made it so that she bounced that thing one more time too slow. And I just ran down there and did it. And that was probably my best sports moment in my life. Like literally. I mean, that was freaking amazing. They were definitely the better team. They were the better team for sure.
But the best player on the court did what she does. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, they were the best team, but you scored 46 points that night, had a great stat line. And you talked about Coach Lewis. And that's where I want to go to next. Like, you play AAU ball along with playing at Monacan. So, how did the AAU experience help you go on to the next level, which we're going to talk about in a minute? But how did that AAU ball, because you played at Monacan, you played at Clover Hill, you played Lee Davis, but the AAU experience, how did that help you get ready for the next level?
Right. AAU experience, it was just nice to go play with some people that were more – I don't know. I don't know what the PC word is, but it was just more people that
we keep it real. We keep it real, Ballin VA. You go ahead and say it.
We keep it real over here.
You go ahead and say it.
Look, it was just nice to see people that look like me. Right. So I went over there and I went across the bridge, and it was mostly people playing from that district. Like, it was a lot of Black folks. It was a lot of people that looked like me, and it was nice to get out there and be around that. A lot of these girls were coming in from Armstrong, a couple played from Armstrong. I want to say Verina, I think she might have played for them a year. I think that's how I first met Denise Wynn. It was actually through AAU. She was playing for Richmond Metro. It was her. She was on the 18 and under squad, and I was on the 15 and under. That's how I met Denise Wynn. She was playing for Richmond Metro. So I got to see these older players that were going to the next level. There were things. And sometimes our 15 and under against their under. And I always wanted to play against people that were better so that we could get better. That experience, that helped because they like to run and gun. Like, they were then pull it out. At Monacan, it was more, let's go down and run a play. If you can't get it, if Tiffany can't get it, pull it out and let's run a play.
Right.
You was let's get down the throats, let's pressure them all the time. So, I mean, it was nice. I like the AAU ball. We got to travel. I met some friends, and we're still friends to this day. So, Coach Atkins did a lot of that.
It's funny that you mentioned it.
Was good.
It was funny you mentioned her.
Go away.
Because that was my next question of you playing with Coach Atkins. Because that's why I met you at one time. I don't know if you recall that when she was coaching some young boys. She was coaching some young boys, which her grandson was on.
Yes.
My son was on that team. And we practiced at Moody Middle School. And that time I was a parent/coach, but I was trying to be more of a parent. But you know how Jean is. Jean, if she know that you got a son that can play or a kid that can play, she wants that parent on the bench.
She do.
I was like, oh God. But yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that you played with it, because when she went out and walked in school, when you saw Jean, she was coming to get the best.
Yeah, so she did. She didn't play. I mean, that woman played until she was 58 years old. That woman was still out there playing.
Wow. So she was playing with us.
And talking.
She was out there playing with us.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
She sure was.
I remember. I mean, She would always tell us to go play against the guys too. Like, I never played against girls until we had to play for a team. I didn't play against girls. I would rather go against guys all day long.
Yes.
The only time I played against girls was when we were playing between the lines. The only time for practice. The rest of it, always boys. Always. Whoopie nose.
Yeah, I mean, she used to play with us, maybe crossing me up. That's why my ankles hurt now, Larry. That's why my ankles hurt now. But look, so seriously though, okay, so you go, you go through Salem, you lose by 2 points. You know, I mean, you 2 points away from getting to a state championship. Your career ends. You still at the pinnacle of your career. So you have the recruit. I know the recruiting process happened earlier, but like, okay, so let's talk about. I know you talked about Virginia was your dream school, but talk about the recruiting process a little bit, Tiff, as we go back. Like, I know UVA was your dream school, but you had, ODU, JMU, George Washington looking at you. What was that whole recruiting process like for you? I mean, and also, what was it like being the best player in the state? Like, I mean, everybody's gunning for you every night. I know back then there was no internet, so everybody's looking at the box scores or whatever. So, what was it like being that top player, and what was it like in that recruiting process, trying to pick all these other schools, knowing that Virginia was my top school?
Thinking back, I never really looked at myself as the top player. I never really walked in that. I wasn't really walking like, yep, I'm the best. Everybody's gunning for me. I mean, y'all need to look out for Tiffany. No, I was just always striving and pushing and on. Capital of Virginia, and came in after ODU, Richmond, JMU. If I'm here in your state and I did get all these accolades, I'm in your capital state, and so late. So I know people would look at it like, well, dang, you got Virginia to come. Like, you should be, and I was very grateful, but I also felt like I always had to prove something because I was just in their backyard, and I felt like I was good enough to be recruited during the early process because, I mean, all these other schools like William & Mary, some of these others were coming in 10th grade, hard.
Yeah.
Virginia came in 11th grade. And even though I signed early, they still came after all the other Virginia schools. So I almost always had this chip on my shoulder to prove that though I was short and though I went to a lot of different schools and I didn't have a lot of team, like I should be, I should be looked at for who and what I could bring to a team. I was always doing that. So I never really walked around in that I'm the best, like everybody's gunning for me. No, I almost was like.
Always grinding.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So like
that answered a whole lot of questions.
So look, so you get the
what was that other question asked?
No, hold on. You get the accolade. Your 1994 Gatorade Player of the Year, as I talked about in the intro. So I mean, what is that feeling like? Because it's only one a year that gets that Player of the Year. You know what I mean? You get that. I mean, what is that feeling like to be the Gatorade State Player of the Year for people like us who never will ever experience that? You know what I mean? Like, what is that feeling like knowing you're going to Virginia, your dream school, and getting that accolade?
I honestly, I love basketball. It took me away from things that were going on in my life. I was able to just put everything aside. I always say that when I was a coach, put all your baggage on the side, go in there between the lines and play. It'll be there when you pick it up. When you get out, you can pick it up afterwards. So basketball for me was this getaway. And God willing, he helped me get to be, decent with what I did. And so being able to get to that level, it was like, woosah, all that hard work off. Because this guy I was telling you about, a guy named Lonnie Lewis, he was a friend of the family, or like married into the family. He was a firefighter, but also played at Longwood. And I met him again going from it was my 10th into my 11th grade year. And he will wake me up 5:30 in the morning, call me and say I need him at the gym. after I ran a certain number of miles. And then he'd come in and say, okay, you need to run a little bit more. And then we're going to do 100 free throws. And then we're going to run, and then we're going to do jump shots. And then we're going to work on your defense. And then we're going to work on reading the defense. Then we're going and it was just day after day after day of those things. And I think when I got those accolades and Virginia did come in and asked to have me join their school. And when, you know, Virginia did recognize me as the AAA Player of the Year and Miss Basketball and all that stuff that happened, I was like, whoa, hard work pays off.